Coolsville sucks.
What you call a high call living? Try to make a little mission, just did it. 9 long over 5 minutes. Whoa, we up too hot in the place.
Hi guys, my name is Mayana and today I'm going to be doing the best books of 2019. I actually have 21 books to put. I was trying to do 20 books, but listen, a lot of these books were too good to like not talk about. And it's actually very ironic because I did a video like this, like I want to say 6 months ago. No, like 4 months ago, where I did the best books of 2019 so far. And a lot of these books are still on the list, so if you've already seen that, then like not much has changed. But if you haven't, then here we are. So I'm going to start off with the books that I don't own physically. So the first book that I have is The Night from Never Letting Go. I do own this book, I just don't know what it is. I read this book the start of the year and I actually really enjoyed it. This book is about a town, a town where everybody can read each other's minds, and it's mostly just filled with guys. And so these two dads send their son off to go on like this adventure, and he ends up meeting this girl, and it's supposed to be becoming a movie. And it's with Tom Holland. This was the first book I read of the year, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The book has a dog, and the dog is the comic relief of the book, and I just really love that. The next book I have is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and I think I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars as well. And this book is about a girl who works for this hockey player, and he's kind of like doesn't really care about her. Like, he doesn't show her any attention, and then one day she's like, okay, I'm gonna quit, like I want something better in my life. And he begs her to stay, and he like actually begs her to be his fake wife. And it's like hate to love, fake married. And if anybody knows me, you know I love hate to love, and you know I love fake dating. So fake married, even better. So I absolutely love this book, but it was very long. And if you know me, I'm like, I don't know, for some reason I don't like long books. They kind of start to lose interest for me towards the middle, and so I kind of got bored towards the middle, and I was like, okay, when is this over with? But it was still good nonetheless. I kind of just was like, I'm ready for it to be over because I'm lazy. So the next book I have is Fix Her Up, which I read this book in like a matter of hours. I remember my aunt and her husband were taking us to go to Cedar Point, and I literally read that book in the car, and I read that book in the lines while I was at Cedar Point, and I absolutely love this book. I believe I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This book is very weird because a lot of people hate this book, and then a lot of people love this book. And I just recently, the first book I read for this year was the second book in the sequel, which is Love Her or Lose Her, which I love, but not as much as Fix Her Up. So the next book I have on this list is actually Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I do own this book physically. I just don't know where the book is. Like, how did I lose a book in my room? I literally never touch it because it was an art, and I love this book so much. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It was so amazing. Literally, it's in my top 10, I want to say. I don't want to pick a top 10 because I read so many amazing books this year. So I was gonna do a top 10 actually, but then I like was going through it and I'm like, I can't narrow this down to 10. Like, I can't. And so this book is about a girl named Chloe Brown who's black, and she has fibromyalgia, and she has this list to get a life, and she ends up meeting her landlord's best friend, and he helps her get a life. And it's just very smutty and good, and I love it. And I love Chloe because I love their relationship because he always calls her like spoiled. And it was so nice seeing like a black character be called spoiled, you know, like, because in most things, like most books, the black characters are like poor, so to see a family with like money and be spoiled, like he was like always calling her like a spoiled brat, and I'm like, me. But yeah, I love the book so much. It was so good. The other book on this list is Ninth House. I was gonna get this book. I see this book everywhere, but I didn't get it because I wanted to order the UK edition, but I just never got around to ordering it, and I finally just ordered it, and it's not gonna be here until like January 21st, so I have to deal without having it. But I actually really love this book. This book is about a girl who can see ghosts, and she ends up like having to watch over the secret society. And I just love the characters, and I love how they went in depth to talk about the characters. Like, there's a lot of things that people didn't like about this book that I actually really loved about this book. Like, it was very slow. I actually couldn't tell you what the book was about in the beginning, honestly. Like, the beginning was super slow, but once they picked up, it was like really good. Like, I absolutely loved it. And Darlington is my bae. That's when people were first talking about this book, everyone kept saying Darlington, and I kept thinking they were all correcting Darkling to Darlington, which I also love the Darkling, so, you know, that was good. The next book I have is The Woman in the Window, which I never physically own this book. My sister does, but I don't. And I actually really love this book. This was like one of the only thrillers that I loved last year, but I only read like maybe 4 thrillers last year. But I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was kind of like boring in the beginning, and a lot of things could have been taken out. But then there were some things that like I thought could have been taken out, but then when I got to the end, they like added to the plot. But the plot at the end really just reminded me of Scream, which, if you don't know, Scream is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. And it doesn't, like, I don't think anybody else could get that connection. Like, I think that's just something that like I felt reminded of, but I just thought of like Scream, and I was like, wow, I love this. And the last book on like my not physical list is Stalking Jack the Ripper, which, if you know me, then you know I said that a lot, but if you follow me on Twitter, then you would know that like I had no interest in reading Stalking Jack the Ripper. I was so upset. I'm like, I thought Stalking Jack the Ripper was about this girl stalking Jack the Ripper and like falling in love with him, and it's not, so I want to read it. Girl, still read it, okay? The series is good. Well, I've only read the first book, and then I'm gonna wait to get the whole series physically, but it was so good. It was about this girl who, like, these dead bodies are coming up, and she's trying to figure out why. And she works in a morgue, which it's a what is it called? It's a historical book, so it's very old, and I'm not really into historical books, but I'm kind of getting into them now. And so she works in this morgue, but she actually isn't supposed to, because like, she's a lady. Like, ladies aren't supposed to do that kind of stuff, but her uncle owns one, and he like teaches her, and these bodies come missing, and there's like this hate to love trope in there, which I wasn't expecting, and it was really good. And when I found out who the Jack the Ripper was, I was like, wow, I was shook. A lot of people weren't. Jake wasn't, but I was like, okay. So I say for like my non-physical. So for my physical, I had the Dragon Tea Society, which, did I read this last year? We're gonna put it on my list anyways. So yeah, I read the Dragon Tea Society. And I really loved it. This book is super cute. I really am just obsessed with the artwork. Like, look at it. It's so cute. I wanted the small I forget which one it was. Outcrate. I wanted the small Outcrate edition that was like so cute, but it was sold out, and I don't think they sell it anymore. I could probably find it on eBay, but it'll probably be like $50 because people don't know like how to make things at a reasonable price. And the next book I have on this list is Not the Girl You Married, which I think I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really like this book because it's like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, but kind of reversed. And How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is actually one of my favorite rom-com movies. So when I heard that this was basically that, I was like, okay, well, I have to read it now. And I really like this because the character is the main girl. First of all, she's a mixed girl, I believe, but she just reminds me of myself. Like, she's very vulgar and very out there, and like guys are kind of, I don't want to say intimidated by that, but that guys are all like, you need to be more ladylike. I just love this. And the song was like pretty good, but I think I ended up getting this a 4-star because of the ending. I'm pretty sure I ended off with a wedding. Yeah, because if it didn't, I would have gave it a 5-star, because I hate books that end in weddings, engagements, or having a baby, especially all 3. So usually when I read that, like, unless the book is super good, I'm gonna give it like 4 stars. But if it doesn't end in that and the book is good, I'm gonna give it like 5 stars. I don't know, it's weird. And the next book I have on this list is The Gilded Wolves, which a lot of people keep comparing this to Six of Crows, and they're nothing like. They're nothing of the sort.
And she's nothing like that. She's nothing of the sort.
But yeah, they're nothing alike. This book is very gorgeous. I love this book so much. The second book is coming out, and I hate the art cover. So if the book looks like that, I'm not reading it. I'm sorry, no matter how much I love this book, I'm not reading it. Also, this book made me cry. I was reading this book on 2x speed, crying because of something that happened in this book. So I remember like recording myself and looking insane because all you hear is like a bunch of gibberish and just tears streaming down my face. So that was funny, but I really enjoyed this book. Like, there's nothing, Six of Crows in this book are nothing alike, so I'm gonna need people to stop saying it, okay? And even if they were, this book was written by a woman of color, so I'm gonna need y'all to stop doing that thing y'all do where, oh, I'm so tired of this trope when it's written by a woman of color, but then when it's written by a white woman, y'all okay, y'all don't care, because there are plenty of books that are just like Six of Crows I don't hear nobody saying nothing about. But when y'all get to Give the Wolves written by a woman of color, y'all want to be like, oh, I don't want to read this, it reminds me too much of it. I don't care. You're gonna read this book, you're gonna like it, you're gonna give it 5 stars, and then you're gonna shut up. Okay, thank you. I have is Radio Silence, which Jamie from Leo Reads bought me for my birthday this year, and I absolutely loved it. This book was so amazing. This book helped me through like a very anxious time. I was on the plane and I was just very, very anxious, and I remember reading this book to get my mind off of it, and I read this book on a 2-hour flight, and I absolutely loved it. It kept my mind off of things, and so for that, the book means even more for me. And then it was given to me by a friend, so it's like this book just means the world to me, basically. The next book I have is The Honeymooners, which is my favorite book. I read this book twice. I read this book when it first came out, and then I read it in June for my reread, which this is like the only paperback I've ever tabbed, and I love it because you can barely tell I tabbed it. Like, ugh, my mind. I love this book so much. This book is about this girl who has a twin sister, and her twin sister is getting married, and her twin sister is kind of like a cheapskate a little bit, okay? So she ends up getting this coupon for an all-you-can-eat buffet, and everybody ends up getting sick except for the twin sister and the groom's brother, and they hate each other. So they end up having to go to Hawaii together to spend the vacation together, so the sister's money won't go to waste because that was also coupon. She can't get a refund for it. So since they're twin sisters, they kind of, you know, played the same person, and, you know, I had to sleep in the same bed trope, and it was just amazing. And the fact that it was set in Hawaii, which is a place that I've always wanted to visit, like, I just loved it, and I love the characters, and I love the main character. Also reminds me of myself because she's very like unlucky and like bad, like, you know, the weirdest things tend to happen to her, which happens to me a lot. Nothing lucky ever really happens to me. Like, I was talking to Mika last night, and I was telling her, like, Mika, you are so lucky. This girl, one time me and Mika entered a giveaway, and like, this was like a very unknown giveaway. Only 5 people entered, and guess who won? Mika. I entered as well, didn't win anything, but Mika won. I'm like, oh, okay, that's amazing. We love it. We love to see it. So she feels very unlucky, and I kind of relate to that. She's very like vulgar, and I really like characters who are very vulgar and just aren't as ladylike as you should be, or as ladylike as other characters. And I just love this book so much, so it was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. The next book I have is The Right Swipe, and this book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This book, it was good, but it wasn't as good. This book is about this girl and this guy. They work for 2 different like dating apps. This app that she works for is kind of like Tinder, and then this one, he doesn't work for it, but he, like, his aunt works for it, and like he's kind of like helping his aunt. He is kind of like eHarmony, and they kind of like, we had to work together, but they went on a date before, and he ghosted her, and I was like, oh yes, like, guys ghost me all the time. Guys ghost me all the time. I talked to like 5 guys this year, and all of them have ghosted me. So if that doesn't tell you where my life is, then I don't know what does. So when she was mad at him, I was like, yes girl, like don't take nothing, like, be mad, like, be bitter, hold a grudge. And then she forgave him, and I was like, ugh. But it ended up still being amazing. Like, they end up like kind of fake dating a little bit, and I was like, all right, you got me back. I'm not mad at you. So yeah, I really liked it. And also, Whitney from Whitney Novels said that the main character reminded her of Jason Momoa, and ever since then I started to think that the main character was Jason Momoa, so there's also that. Next book I have on this list is Sorcery of Thorns, which I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This book is about this girl who lives in a library, and the books kind of like have personalities a little bit. Like, if you don't pet the book, like, it won't open for you. Like, they kind of, you know, they have personalities. And one day her friend dies, and I believe they accuse her of doing it or something, because she was like, something happens, I literally forget. I'm so sorry. I've read so many books this year, so that was trash. I'm sorry, but yeah. And she ends up having to become friends with this one guy, and they have this sword called the Demon Slayer, and I literally am, it's like my favorite character in the book. It's an inanimate object. It doesn't talk, it doesn't move, it doesn't have a mind of its own, but you know, we stand the Demon Slayer, period. It is the Poppy War, which I actually just finished this year, so this was my first reread of 2020. But you know, I had to tab it up, and I read this book, and I literally love R.F. Kuang. Like, I can see her becoming like one of my favorite authors, or one of my auto-buy authors. So this book is about basically a fictional China and a fictional Japan are like at war, and it's like a military book, and I never thought that I would enjoy that, but I absolutely loved it. And I love the main character Ren, and I love the characters in this book and the friendship. The next book on this list is The Devouring, and I feel like Jake would literally slaughter me if I didn't put this book on my list. But the more I think about it, well, I only give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars because there's just something lacking in this book. And so I feel like the lack of POC characters kind of just throw me off, because there's 4 friends in this book, but not one of them was a person of color. Like, they all were white, which I mean, like, that's okay, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but there wasn't very much diversity in this book, like POC wise. Of course there was like bi characters and things like that, but there was no color to it. And like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not saying every book has to be diverse, but this book came out in 2018 when we were getting more diverse books. So I don't know, I feel like I feel like a hypocrite because there are a lot of books on my list that didn't have any diversity, but I felt like if they would have had a person of color in this book, like, it would have went so perfectly with this book, if that makes sense. And that's not why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but that's just something like I noticed about this book that kind of annoyed me. But this book is basically about this group of unlikely friends, kind of, but not really, and they're all like their families are found families, and there's like this gray, and a lot of people compare it to Stranger Things and Riverdale, which is compared to Stranger Things because the gray is kind of like the upside down, like you can get sucked into it. And yeah, like, I don't know, I really like this book though. This book was one of my first books that I had that were like sent to me for a review, and so this book just has like a lot of memories behind it. But that's not why I gave it, like, you know, I really enjoyed the book, but it was just something off about this book that I kind of was missing, and I can't tell you what it was. Next book I have is Truth Witch, which I was scared to like this is so funny because even before I was into booktube, like, this was a book I was always getting recommended by Amazon, but I was like, nah, like, I'm good. But this book, I really liked it because it had different types of witches, but to an extent it kind of irritated me because there was a witch for everything, but I loved it, but I hated it, you know. I think I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I'm very excited to continue the series. So the next 2 books on this list, like, you better have been expecting. If not, you must be new here. The Wicked King and The Queen of Nothing. 2, like, I read these both in 2019. Okay, no, I actually read The Wicked King in 2018, but I started my reread in 2019. I just never finished it. And then I reread The Queen of Nothing twice. So that's funny how I was struggling to reread The Wicked King, but I read The Queen of Nothing twice. If you ask me what my favorite book in the series was, the answer would probably be different based off like what I'm reading at the time and what my mood is. But yeah, these are 2 continuations in the Cruel Prince series, which is about this girl who is kidnapped and taken to fairyland as a child, and she grows up in the fairyland, and kind of like bully her because she's a human and she wants to be like a knight basically, and a lot of stuff just happens and a lot of stuff goes down. And I just love this series so much, and I thought that the ending, The Wicked King, I thought that The Cruel Prince was, I thought that The Queen of Nothing was like such a good ending to this series. Like, it was so amazing and it was wrapped up so well to me, and I was very happy with the ending. And this is like one of the only books I've ever like finished a series of. I don't finish series very often, so the fact that I did and I absolutely loved it, just, it makes it all more beautiful. Okay, the next book I have is The Poet X, which I recently read and I absolutely loved it. This book was actually sent to me for my birthday by Woody Novels, which, you know, makes me so happy because this is one of my favorite books. I actually love this book so much. It was written in I forget what it's called, but yeah, it was written like this, like a poem. And oh, this is the note that Whitney sent me because I keep the notes in my books. But yeah, it's about this girl and basically just watching her go through her like life. And her mom is like very strict and Christian, and she's growing up and she's kind of like thick, so her body's like very voluptuous, and her parents kind of like blame her for it, which happens a lot in like the Black community. And the character's mixed, so like it was the character's Dominican, my bad, sorry. It's very interesting to see that. Like, I think it happens a lot in POC communities where, like, not me, I didn't experience that, but where I seen it a lot in middle school. Like, people would like grow up and they would have like very voluptuous bodies, and because they wore certain clothes, like people would be like, oh, like you're being fast and you're being like this, and you want the attention, you want guys to look at you like this. But it's like, it's not like that. Like, you know, like I can't help that my body looks like this. And it was just really interesting to see the character grow through that, and like falling in love, and like her twin brother, and you know, the things that he went through, and just how they were treated differently, because the sister would get treated, like punished for some of the stuff that she would do, and her brother would do the same thing, and he would be praised for it, or her mom wouldn't care. And she would write poems, and I remember when her mom found her poem book, and her mom was like very like upset with her, instead of trying to see where she came from. It was just very interesting to read from this book. The last book on this list is Daughter of the Pirate King, which I read, which I loved. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I wasn't expecting to love this so much, but it had a good hate to love. The ending was good. The plot twist. It's basically this girl who is a daughter of the Pirate King, and these guys kidnap her. And I don't really want to talk about any more of this book, because I don't want it to be a spoiler, and I don't know what's a spoiler or not. But just know she's a daughter of the Pirate King, and they kidnap her. Okay, that's all I can say. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, I love this book. I didn't expect to love it so much. It had a good hate to love romance. Like, it was pretty good. The second book came out, but I've been scared to read it because I thought this book was so wrapped up perfectly, like it didn't need a sequel. But Minka read it and she loved it, and she gave it 5 stars, so maybe I'll read it. She said it was actually written well, but to me, I just don't see how you can, like, I'm scared that it's gonna be ruined, okay? But yeah, that's it for this video. Tell me what your best books of 2019 are. If you loved, if you have any of the same books on this list, if you read any, check out my other videos. Follow me on Twitter at It's Maya Reads, and I'll see you guys in the next one because my camera is dying.